Right sides.
No, I came up, it was 1 year in January. So we're slowly getting there. Yeah, it's crazy how fast that went.
I had to stop wearing, I have that exact same bed. 9 times out of 10 we just sit next to each other.
Yes, so I just want to give you a heads up that after we're done, for a quick picture.
We good on the video?
Yep,
Taylor?
we're good.
Not enthusiastically, but we're gonna live, I think.
Her Benny ate something. She wasn't sure.
And he was acting all weird. Like the floor should have been clean. They were just blocked, but you know.
Concern was we had my big stew.
Such a responsibility.
All right, 6 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the May 9th meeting. General announcements for those watching tonight's meeting virtually. The meeting is available live stream via the Park District website. All information about Park District meetings can be found at winpark.org under the Park District Info tab by selecting Board Meetings and Videos. As you all know, public comment is accepted in person, and a link to the video and the audio will be posted immediately following this evening's meeting. To improve the sound while listening to the meeting, please turn up the volume on your computer and turn up the volume on the website. And the meeting packet for tonight's meeting is located on the website as well. For those of you attending in person, the emergency exits from the room are the door behind you and through the foyer. To improve the quality of sound, there is a boom microphone directed towards the commissioners. And the microphone likely will pick up additional audience noise and sidebar conversations. Likewise, if you are predisposed to not hear well, please move to a front row seat. As a reminder, this is a business meeting and not a sporting event. The board asks for your cooperation to maintain decorum. There's no clapping or booing. Please be considerate and refrain from interrupting board members and other speakers. We are a community coming together to discuss difficult issues in a civil and respectful fashion. I'd like to thank Sergeant Strzelik for joining us this evening. Based on the recommendation from staff on some actions and comments at our last meeting. It's the first time in my 7 years, Sergeant, so thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'd like to call to order the May 9th, 2024 meeting, Committee of the Whole meeting, and we'll do a roll call first. Sorry folks.
Commissioner Hemmings. Commissioner James.
Here.
Commissioner Rapp. Here. Commissioner Root. Here. Commissioner Tyson.
Here.
Commissioner Lesson.
Here.
Commissioner Toto. Here. Do you have a quorum?
Thank you. Now, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any requests for changes or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the May 9th agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're going to move to agenda item number 2, proclamation of Water Safety Month. Commissioner Tyson is going to read the proclamation, and then there'll be a photo of the commissioners here and 2 local families with their children. So Commissioner Tyson.
Thank you, VP Lesson. I want to start by saying, given our amazing beaches and numerous opportunities for aquatic activities in Lake Michigan, I think it's safe to say that all Winnetka Park Board Commissioners agree on the importance of promoting water safety for the Park District and our community. I'll now go ahead and read the proclamation. Water Safety Month. Whereas the Winnetka Park District recognizes the vital role that swimming and aquatic-related activities play in good physical and mental health and enhancing the quality of life for all people. And whereas the Winnetka Park District community is fortunate to have beautiful beaches. And whereas the Winnetka Park District understands the essential role that water safety education plays in preventing drownings and recreational water-related injuries. And whereas the Winnetka Park District recognizes contributions made by the recreational water industry, including organizations involved in the National Water Safety Month Coalition, have done much work in developing safe swimming facilities, aquatic programs, and related activities, which provide healthy places to recreate, learn, grow, build self-esteem, confidence, and a sense of self-worth, which contribute to the quality of life in our community. And whereas the Winnetka Park District recognizes the ongoing efforts and commitments to educate the community on water safety issues and initiatives through its Beach Safe Water Safety community-wide campaign. And whereas communicating water safety rules and programs to families and individuals of all ages is vital. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Park Commissioners of the Winnetka Park District that the month of May is hereby designated as Water Safety Month. We urge all residents and visitors to join us in promoting water safety by taking part in our aquatic programs, learning essential water safety skills, and being vigilant around water bodies. Let us work together to ensure a safe and enjoyable experience for everyone in and around the water. Given under our hands and seal on this 9th day of May, 2024. Signed by Christina Cotto, President, Eric Lusson, Vice President. So I wanted to make sure that I first recognized Elisa and her team for what they did, recognize them to launch the Beach Safe campaign, all the work that went into that. I also wanted to let everyone know that additional information can be found on the Beach Safe program on the Winnetka Park District website. And I think with that, we have a photo op with some community representatives.
We're going to do it right here. It's a proclamation.
She's got it. No, it's okay.
These are some of our beach goers. We're going to put the board right here in the
Non
back, and
beach
then our
day.
little friends right
Right,
there.
right. This is
Exactly. We got to work on that, right?
Welcome, guys.
You gotta get over where you can be seen. I'll stand behind you.
There, run, there. No pressure.
Thank you.
I'm good. Everyone?
Okay, well, we don't want a video. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Here we go.
You're good for it.
1, 2, 3. Smile. Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe out there. Be safe. Thank you for coming. Survives in an instant.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Commissioner Tyson and the family and children that just joined us. Moving on to the agenda to item number 3, public comment. This is your opportunity to address the board on any issue. When called upon, come to the center position in front of the commissioners and stand at the podium. Speak loudly or into the microphone, state your name for the record, and speak directly to the board. Per the Winnetka Park District's policy manual, all comments must be kept to 3 minutes. This is not a question and answer forum, as we all know, so please do not expect an immediate response. If you prefer to share your comments in writing this evening, you may do so by leaving those comments with a member of the Park District staff. So, as we turn to public comment, I'd welcome any members or from the public in the front row. Please.
I've been asked to read this letter from Philip Enquist, who's out of the country traveling.
And your name, sir?
My name is Steve Juliuson, 1436 Asbury.
Thanks, Mr. Juliuson.
So first, an introduction. Philip Enquist is a native of Winnetka and is in many ways a favorite son. He is a partner in the Chicago office of Skidmore, Owings & Merrill in charge of urban design and planning, and is a fellow of the American Institute of Architects, FAIA. He has also taught at Harvard University and the University of Michigan and has won numerous architectural awards. Mr. Enquist focuses on strengthening the physical, social, and intellectual infrastructure of cities, but his practice also extends to regional ecosystems like the Great Lakes with his conception of the Lakeside Master Plan. His expertise makes him extremely well qualified to provide an opinion on the lakefront. Mr. Enquist has requested his letter to be read, to be placed on record for this board and the lower boards. Thank you. From the very beginning, the design modifications to Centennial Beach have been driven primarily by the Winnetka Park District's interest in designing a community beach that prevents public access along the shared Ishbia property line, the south edge of Centennial Beach. The Winnetka community members have seen an array of proposals from fences to high metal louvered panels to rose hedges and raised planters. A dog beach with fences and the addition of a major stone breakwater are now proposed. The stone breakwater has not been proven that it is needed. What purpose is it serving? For many years now, the public has repeatedly asked for a simplified version of the beach design and a preservation of the openness and vast views that it currently offers today. The evidence or proof of needing new stone breakwaters to prevent sand erosion has not been provided to the public. In fact, there is opposing evidence that stone breakwaters actually increase the erosion of sand beaches. The cost of sand replenishment annually has not been defined. The high fences extending out along the proposed breakwater, defining an exclusive dog beach, is unprecedented. These proposed barriers and obstructions will continue to fragment our lakefront, challenging the visibility and safety of swimmers, and it still may not protect our shoreline from the ongoing future climate challenges we face in this region. A 2022 American Geophysical Union study projected that baseline water levels for Lake Michigan will rise by half a meter, or 19.68 inches, by mid-century due to increased rainfall. My question to the board are, 1, has this proposed breakwater design been driven by the adjacent Ishbia property privacy issue, or the more serious threat of the anticipated climate challenges that we face? 2, will the proposed breakwater help to protect the beaches from the projected lake level rise in this century? 3, can the Winnetka Park District Board communicate to the Winnetka general public the hydrologic data used to create this proposed breakwater design? 4, is it possible that in a few years we will face climate and lake level challenges which will underline the shortfall of this current design proposal? Again, we ask the Winnetka Park District and its board to investigate smarter and more resilient solutions and look beyond the driving challenge of creating privacy for an adjacent property. Much more is at stake for our village's lakeshore. Signed, Philip Enquist, resident of Winnetka, fellow American Institute of Architects, honorary fellow American Society of Landscape Architects, and adjunct faculty, UIC College of Urban Planning and Public Administration. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve, for reading the comments on behalf of Mr. Enquist. Comments in the front row. David.
David Seaman, good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I got two topics. One that's joyful, maybe one that's not as joyful. Listen, this marketing effort, explore, discover together, great. Board meeting recap emails, great. Executive director and staff reports, great. I always like to remind myself and others as well that this park district is filled with good people that do great things for this community. So I would say thank you. Now the less joyful topic, but some things are necessary. Listen, this board works for the broader Winnetka community, not one group, not one interest or individual. That's why we have 7 board members of varying backgrounds, perspectives, and community touch points. That's why we have elections every 2 years. This board then comes together to listen, share, learn, debate, and then most importantly, vote. It's then the duty of each board member to respect the majority actions of this board and support the executive director and agency in the execution of those board actions. Commissioner Root, I worked very closely with you at times while I was on the board. I supported you on many occasions. You put forth considerable effort. You really do. But this resolution of censure from the April 25th meeting is damning. I'm sorry, but these actions in the resolution are not simply unconventional or needed, they're unethical, period, full stop. And you have put self-interest above all else. It's terrible. I'm sorry. So I fully support the resolution of censure of Commissioner Root, and Colleen, I sincerely hope you reflect on your behavior and this censure and move to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Mary, did you raise your hand before?
Good evening. Mary Garrison, 350 Ridge Avenue. Different than Mr. Seaman here. The April 25th Winnetka Park District Board meeting was a meeting that I had never imagined would happen. Past commissioners have had major differences. It is not called for to shame a person because his or her opinion differs from the majority. Disagreement and debate is part of the job. Not always are elected officials in complete agreement. If a censure is warranted, the censure is not a shame. The censure of Commissioner Root was not warranted. Commissioner Root has been a very dedicated elected official. The censure is inappropriate. The disagreement for the Elder Centennial proposed park update, the extraordinary cost to the taxpayers, the large stones in Lake Michigan, the rights of the public to continue to traverse over the beaches, have all had much discussion. Disagreement and debate is healthy when spending taxpayer money. A censure brings shame to the individual. It appeared that all the discussion was healthy discussion in hopes of enhancing the beach and parks at Elder and Centennial. The protection of the bluff was necessary, and the guidance of the 2030 plan was all meant to better the community. The unforeseen occurred and the public trust doctrine was threatened. Unfortunately, the censure has brought shame to an elected official, the Winnetka Park District community, and the village of Winnetka. Winnetka Park District has always been recognized as best of the best. The Winnetka Park District reputation is now a bit tarnished. It seems that the Park District attorney, the executive director, or other commissioners could have stopped this censure to protect the image of the community as well as the reputation of the potentially censured commissioner. The censure was ill-conceived. At this point, damage has been done to an individual and to the Winnetka Park District in the process. The Board of Commissioners were in violation of the Open Meetings Act. All commissioners are to be given the same material review for each meeting. 2 commissioners of the 7 elected were not provided with the same information for the April 25th meeting. In the spirit of the Winnetka Park District mission statement, please do what is best for our community. Thank you. I do have something to be read for Laurie Peterson. Would you want to wait till the end and I'll do that for her?
Sure. Thanks, Mary. Is anyone in the second row? Angie, please.
Thank you. Angie Dahl. I'm a 40-plus year resident of Winnetka. I would like to express my concerns about this board's unprecedented censure of Colleen Root. Our community prides itself on its residents' extraordinary commitment to volunteer participation in local government. Citizen volunteers who agree to serve on a public board have every right to expect to participate in healthy exchange of opinions and views on a variety of matters. The fiduciary duty of our elected officials requires a detailed understanding and analysis of the functions of the board and the expenditure of funds by the people elected to those boards. Inquiries into those matters should be encouraged and welcomed. I've attended many meetings of the Park District over the past 3 and 4 years. I have been appalled by the many instances of personal attacks, the lack of civility, the use of profanity and general rudeness among current board members, as well as recently retired board members, specifically directed to a fellow commissioner. No effort was made by board leadership to address and discourage this behavior. Indeed, the board's leadership in many instances was an active participant in this behavior. On more than one occasion, this rude behavior continued into hallways and parking lots after meetings ended, well within the earshot of both the press and community members. The Winnetka Park District Board Member Code of Ethics expressly discourages such rude and disrespectful behavior. The board has no business singling out one commissioner for censure, especially when the board has been conspicuously unwilling to review the questionable behavior of current and recent commissioners and to hold themselves to the same standards. The action taken to censure Commissioner Root was unwarranted, unnecessary, and unproductive. In the future, I hope that board members will treat one another with the professional courtesy and mutual respect with which previous boards conducted themselves for more than 30 years prior to the recent divisive actions taken by the current Winnetka Park Board. Our community deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. On the second row, yeah, please, Irene.
Is this okay?
Yeah, it sounds
okay,
great.
Thank you. I'm just going to move it a little bit. Can you hear me okay? Good. Good evening. Irene Smith, 38-year resident of Winnetka. 2 Thursdays ago, on April 25th, you made a terrible mistake in censuring Commissioner Root. You showed yourselves to be a dysfunctional board. 5 of you were privy to information which was denied to Commissioners Root and Rapp. Mr. Simon must have been in on this scheme. In fact, I'm wondering whether he wrote those little speeches 5 of the commissioners read out. He works for all 7 commissioners, not just 5. Commissioners, what I saw on the 25th of April was flat out bullying. Isn't that exactly what we teach our children not to do? You were bullying one of your own. It was humiliating for Colleen, and it was humiliating for me to observe. We are neighbors. We have better ways to communicate. Could you not have made a phone call or talked to Colleen directly? Why did you jump all the logical negotiating steps and go straight to the gut punch? It's not your job to censure Colleen. She was elected just like you were. If you have a beef, take it to the caucus or take it to the electorate. Your job is to represent all the residents of Winnetka. Commissioner Root represents me. She represents many residents of Winnetka. She is not part of the cabal that is concerned more with another neighbor on Sheridan Road. I'm grateful to have 2 commissioners who are standing up for fiscal responsibility. I ask that you rescind the censure of Colleen Root. And by the way, I filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office last week because I believe you violated the Open Meetings Act on the 25th. Just this afternoon, I received a response, which was also sent to Commissioner Cotto. The Office Bureau Chief of the Public Access Bureau has determined that further action is warranted. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Others in the second row, please.
Good evening, Commissioner Cotto. I'm Melissa.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, you're getting there. I jumped the gun. Sorry. I was just listening for your name. We have not met.
I'm Melissa Mizell, 939 Tower Road. I'd like to focus on an excerpt of the prior meeting's recording. Just after the 95-minute point, you state, "This censure is prompted by 21 violations of the board member code of ethics. It's contained in Addendum A of this resolution. Because this resolution and this addendum contain serious allegations, we did not want to publish this unless we obtained consensus board approval." Then you pass copies of the 3-page document to your left and right and deny 2 requests from Mr. Hecht that the public be shown that same document, stating, "It will be public when it's approved by the consensus of the board." During public comment, I'd objected to the omission of the targeted commissioner's name and alleged offenses from the otherwise comprehensive agenda packet. And there you are, justifying this omission on the pretext that you are actually shielding this commissioner by suppressing allegations about her that need not be circulated should the censure resolution fail. And you twice use the word consensus. Now, consensus in common usage can mean a couple of things. It can mean a meeting of the minds, we all listen to each other and then arrive at an understanding, and there was surely no consensus like that in evidence. Or it can mean a majority, the dominant opinion, and I believe that's how you use the word. So again, you employed this pretext of shielding Colleen Root because the resolution might fail, and yet the number of Confederates you had and the lengthy prepared statements they read out made plain that those in favor knew all along that the censure would succeed. You'd withheld essential information from the public on the pretext that you were shielding Colleen Root, and you were doing no such thing. You were blindsiding her in order to prevent her considered response to your charges. you were blindsiding Commissioner Rapp in order to hobble her likely defense of an ally. You were keeping Winnetka residents who are grateful for Commissioner Root's diligent service in the dark so that they would not be motivated to come out and support her, just as you eliminated the popular end of the meeting comment period so that you would not have to tolerate the fresh outrage of those who were present. And as for those present, by alluding to a motive of shielding the accused commissioner, you were setting out to deceive us. That such unethical manipulations should figure so largely in the first ever proceeding to censure a Winnetka official on ethics charges is painfully ironic. It's also wrong and should be beneath the dignity of your office.
Thank you, Lisa.
Melissa,
sorry.
Miss Mizell will do.
No problem. Others in the second row? Please. Susie. Oh, sorry. Bob, want to go first?
Sure. I'd like to say I echo everything that was said by all the preceding speakers. It comes to my attention there was a quotation from the editor of the newspaper, The Record, perhaps you've heard it. He said that the Winnetka Park Board no longer represents the people of this community. And I was wondering how you would respond to that. And what do you think he was referring to? Was he referring to perhaps actions that you take on issues that were never put on surveys? Or the fact that you engage in transactions with land without ever thinking to put it to a referendum after being advised by the public? For instance, this meeting started off with a statement that it's not a question and answer period. And I've pointed out to this board, as many other people have, that it says right in the Winnetka policy manual that we're allowed to ask questions. And we're hit with the response, yes, but we don't have to answer them. And I mean, this kind of attitude, it seems like you don't want to deal with the public, you don't want to answer questions, you don't want to engage us in debate, you don't want to tell us anything what you're doing. And when people come meeting after meeting and they say we want transparency, I think, what are they really saying? They're saying, I think that they don't trust you, perhaps, that you've somehow done something in your behavior that you don't have the trust of this community because they feel you're not listening to them. We really feel you're not listening. When I show you in plain English that we can ask questions and you say, no, we don't have to answer your questions. What is the authority for that statement, that you make that statement? And we said it over and over again, and you keep saying, we can't ask questions when it says right in the manual, plain simple English. Now, when I moved here to Winnetka, this was a special place, and they talked about something that was different here. They called it the Winnetka way. And how you treated County was not the Winnetka way. I mean, you say that she violated rules. Well, you violated rules by not letting her respond, by ambushing her. And that was calculated. You thought that out. You decided on your own that you were going to give her a chance to respond. Colleen Root is a fine commissioner. We should have more like her because she possesses a quality that many lack, and that she's selfless. She's had nothing to gain, and yet, ironically, you accuse her of doing this for personal gain. I don't see it. I see this all as political. When I heard about this is like, what do you do to your enemies? They ask questions and you're trying to uncover the truth. And it was Putin-esque. I was looking, it sounds like Fannie Willis. This woman here has the admiration of the entire community. She is selfless, she's intelligent, and she worries about asking questions, and we can't ask questions, and you won't let her ask questions. Now, I read some of the 21 counts, and believe me, one was less meritorious than the one preceding it. You know, you can conclude that was a presumption of guilt if these things were made credulously. But I find them incredible. I don't find you have credibility when you lose the trust of the people and they question whether or not you represent them. Where's your credibility? I want to tell Colleen that I appreciate what she does. She has the courage to stand up when she's being bullied. Do all of us have that courage? She's standing up for us. She didn't have to put up with this. What did she get out of this? I don't see her benefiting from this. I would like to think that In a perfect world, we have commissioners that are selfless and can't be swayed by people who have a lot of money and promise them things. Like we've seen what it's been inferred to with a man who gives $3 million with conditions about how he wants the park beach to be maintained. And he gives the orders and directions because he has the purse strings. And the people get that idea that you're not listening to them, you're listening to him. And all throughout the Park District Manual and the rules, it says that you've got to put the community first, the whole of the community, and not private individuals. And that's the impression you're giving everybody. Now, what can you do about it? Because that's the impression I think you're giving everybody. I think you need to listen more to these people that speak at these meetings. You need to adopt caucus plans. You need to put more things on surveys, and you can't do anything with land without putting it to a referendum.
Please wrap up your comments. Thank you.
And that's about it. I'm going to wrap it up. I think that the only thing else I would say is it's cause for concern that we're discussing about changing some of the rules. Maybe expanding 3 minutes to 5 minutes. You know, you want to cut things off and having an intellectual discourse that cut thoughts off in the middle just because it's the end of 3 minutes. And that doesn't make any sense. You should really consider this theme about, does it really say what I said it says about we can ask questions? Has anybody looked? I pointed it out many times. Maybe you can give us an answer on that and read it to us and explain why we can't ask questions when it says right in the manual. You never made an attempt to change the manual. Everybody here wants to ask questions.
Thank you.
They want to know more.
Your time's up.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. Susie, were you next?
Well, second row.
Okay, please.
Susie Schreiber, former Park District Commissioner and Vice President during the 80s and early 90s, and Winnetka Park District resident. I find it despicable that the majority of the present Winnetka Park District Commissioners voted to censure a fellow commissioner without, one, giving two of the commissioners any notice or information regarding a measure prior to the meeting above referenced. This has been indicated by previous speakers tonight. The United States Supreme Court provides for both majority and minority opinions on issues which do not receive unanimous votes from the sitting justices. Why is it illegal for Winnetka Park District Commissioners to have, why is it illegal for Winnetka Park District Commissioners to not have the same rights? In providing a minority opinion, our commissioners are representing opinions of Winnetka Park District residents. Board policy was not intended to limit discussions to only one view and votes to only one conclusion. We are still a democracy in Winnetka. 3, past boards respected all viewpoints and worked to listen to all of the constituents. You were allowing only minority, I'm not sure. You were allowed minority opinions and votes in the past. I respectfully request you to rethink the policy and procedure of which you're going forward as a board. You have an opportunity to make a wonderful challenge, a wonderful change, and go and represent all of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Proceeding with public comments, anybody in the third row?
Randy Whitchurch, 143 Floyd Lane.
Good evening.
First statement, I support 1,000% the comments that people have made in support of Colleen and this despicable public lynching that took place here on April 25th. In the interest of full disclosure, I'm going to read to you some comments I made to the Board of Trustees 2 days ago. I am speaking to you this evening in the hope you will intervene to make the park board come clean about the full cost of the Elder Centennial development plan and to put their plan to referendum. It's really quite simple. How much should they plan to spend? What are we getting for the money? Most importantly, does the public support the plan? Over the past 2.5 years, we have asked the WPD to publish a comprehensive budget for all 3 phases of the Elder Centennial Beachfront Development Plan. They have refused. Either they don't have a budget or they have one but won't disclose it. It's either business malpractice or a willful lack of transparency. Both are unacceptable. In the absence of a budget, we estimate that the full cost for all 3 phases of their development plan exceeds $24 million. This is an enormous amount of money. The WPD disputes our estimate. Well, prove it. No response. Instead, we get updates on new cost estimates versus previous cost estimates for pieces of the project, such as the proposed boardwalk. There's no actual versus budget, no updates to the projected total spending versus plan. This is sloppy and unprofessional, and it's not acceptable. We have also requested multiple times that the park board spending plan, whatever it is, be put to referendum, as has been done in the past for much smaller amounts. The park board tells us they don't need a referendum. What? This is our money, not theirs. Yes, they should get our approval. The WPD need only to look to Kenilworth to see best practices at work. Kenilworth did a survey of their residents to give them a choice between alternative beachfront plans. Here, no survey, no alternatives, no referendum. Why? It's quite clear what's going on here. The WPD is afraid if they disclose the amount and the enormous cost of their vision for Elder Centennial, it would be emphatically rejected by the residents of this community. So instead of full disclosure, they're pushing their plan through piece by piece in the hope we won't notice. Well, we have noticed, and we need your help. We need a spending plan for the entire project, and we need this plan to be subjected to public referendum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others in the third row.
Linda Welch, 38-year resident of Winnetka. Quick question, I know you can't answer, but are we no longer signing in? Are you no longer taking attendance for people who attend the meeting? Maybe you can answer that. I'm just used to always signing in. I've been coming here for 4 years, so I didn't know if it was a change. I'd like to ask you a few questions. When the citizens and future park board members of Winnetka look back with clarity from retrospection at the actions this board has taken over the last 4 years, what will be their thoughts? What will be their responses? I think it's really important to think about that, the people who are going to sit in these chairs in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. What will they think of the removal of a beloved and well-utilized dog park from the beachfront master plan with no discussion with the community? Take it, leave it, but there is no discussion. What will they think about entering into the 2020 exchange agreement, giving part of our beautiful Centennial Park to a private party with no community discussion? Truly, literally, and figuratively violating the public trust. Failing to make the necessary upgrades to Elder to allow public use during the last 3 to 4 years when people repeatedly ask to use the beach. What will they think about accepting a $3 million donation from an entity that is really not negotiated with us in good, or with you in good faith, and accepting a 50-year donation, term length provision, and restrictive covenant despite a competing donation offer? What will they think about censuring a board member in public without any notice? I'm aware of no professional organization that would allow this type of censure in public, especially not in my experience in my years of working. This behavior, this public censure, really, I believe, fell out of favor in the late 1800s. Censuring a hardworking board member, what will they think about censuring a hardworking board member who chooses to disagree with the party line without taking a long look at board members who may have current business and or personal conflicts of interest? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Others there in the third row?
In Marsh, 360 Forest Street. Before I start my comments, I'd just like to point out that I was mortified to observe Commissioner Warren James laughing at the comments by Mr. Mucci. I find that very, very troubling. And we talk about civility, and we talk about how the board members behave to each other. And to see that tonight, in the moment, was very distressing to me.
It wasn't allowed.
I saw what I saw. I'm not going to debate with you.
Disagreement of a false statement.
And you laughed at him. So, I'm going to make my comments. I'm voicing my objection to the censure of Colleen Root. It's a sad day for all of Winnetka that this board decided to act in such a misguided and complicit way in violation of the Open Meetings Act to censure and punish a colleague who has worked tirelessly as an independent voice regarding Elder Centennial Beach. But for her scrutiny and thoughtful questions over the past 4 years, we would have had a 15-foot high metal louvered fence and all the other ridiculous and previously secret requirements agreed to by this board and its leadership in collusion with a private landowner. All of the purported reasons for this censure do not fly, and the method by which all of you colluded to come prepared with typewritten statements, despite Commissioner Rapp not even knowing about it, lead those of us watching this unfold to surmise that the censure has been in the works for some time and is a vindictive retribution for an independent voice. The ongoing lack of transparency by this board is a disgrace. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your comments this evening. So we have the next public remarks, I think. Good evening.
Good evening. Ann Wilder, resident of Winnetka. It is appalling that you censored Colleen Root. Colleen has been doing her job properly, acting as a fiduciary and representing the tax-paying community. All commissioners should be doing the same, but most of you are not. Censoring Colleen, as you did, is a perfect illustration of long-standing park board dysfunctional leadership and its misunderstanding of the park board's role. The Park District is not a corporation nor a club. It is a governmental body. There is a difference. The biggest difference involves transparency. Governmental bodies require far more transparency than corporations or clubs, but the Park District has been missing that for years. For example, despite repeated requests over many years to get the Park District to post meeting videos on its website and to get minutes on the site without a long delay, it only happened recently thanks to Commissioner Root and Rapp. So Commissioner Root was censured for trying to increase transparency? Go figure. The process by which the lakefront plan was created was wrong from the very start. Park board members and staff were asked to propose friends and acquaintances as candidates for the Lakefront Advisory Committee. That method of forming a committee resulted in an insular group, and Park District meeting minutes indicated the concern that it was not representative. Curiously, those minutes, which were on the website, disappeared shortly after a FOIA request was submitted. Past commissioners seem to spend an inordinate amount of time staying involved in park board affairs. After 8 years, the average person would be more than happy to leave the governance behind. Why are past commissioners so involved behind the scenes? And how does that help in achieving fresh eyes, new blood, and transparency? Winnetka Park District leadership has continually chosen excuse me, only certain groups and residents to meet with and to listen to, and has been contentiously dismissive of those who don't agree with and speak out against leadership's preferences. The poor record keeping of the Park District is astounding. Documents required by law to be kept have been lost. Deeds to Park District properties and minutes of meetings are examples. The unapologetic and dismissive attitude toward the inability to locate records is even more astounding. An example of this attitude is a past park director yelling at a resident who cost the district money because it had to pay a title company to find deed documents it already should have had. I could go on, but it is obvious that the dysfunction of the park board leadership has created an untenable situation for commissioners who do their job and look after the interests of the community. What is disturbing is that so many commissioners on this board don't seem to understand this or care. Instead, they censure a commissioner who is doing her job.
Thank you for coming this evening and sharing your remarks. Others in the third row there? Anyone else? Third row? All right, how about we progress to the back row, the fourth row, I think, from my viewpoint. Any public comments from the fourth row?
Hi, my name is Krisha Miller, and I'm a Winnetka Park District resident. I want to say how eloquent all my fellow citizens here are on behalf of Colleen Root, who has done nothing but provide me with information that I couldn't have gotten from other people, including staff. She's been at the farmers markets and always on our side, and on all of Winnetka's side about the beach. Which is the issue that brings me here today. I really hope that Colleen will be respected by this board for all her opinions, but especially the ones that you don't agree with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others in that fourth row? Yes, please.
Thank you, Nikki Blanco Robinson. My name is Jude O'Flay. I live at 112 Fuller Lane. I have been a resident for 32 years. I have come to the park board meetings for a variety of reasons across the years, from being a member of the board of AYO Region 425, as a docent in the Schmidt-Burnham Longhouse located on Crow Island Woods. I have to admit, I was stunned this evening walking in and seeing a member of Winnetka's finest here. I'm not sure exactly what to make of that, but I do want to point out two things. One is that by my count, it is 11-1 in favor of you, Commissioner Root. And you will hear that support when you go to Starbucks, to Pete's, to Hometown, to the farmer's market. You represent me, and I thank you for your endeavors, and also to you, Commissioner Rapp.
Thank you very much. Others, fourth row.
Good evening, my name is Mickey Archambault. I am a 39-year resident of Winnetka. My comments will be very brief. Obviously, a major decision was reached at the last board meeting. Whatever your opinion is on that decision, and we've certainly heard that tonight, the question for me is, where do you go from here? One path is a negative path, where nothing changes, which will not result in any improved outcomes. The other path is a positive approach, which would have the following elements. Learn from this experience. What can you do better? Abide by the process for making decisions. Support board decisions, even though that may differ from your point of view. Work to improve relationships with the other governing bodies, to better understand and appreciate one another's issues, and look to provide helpful assistance whenever possible. Lastly, respect one another. Remember, all of us here are taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mickey. Other comments from visitors this evening? Oh, yeah, you wanted to come back to the written. Yeah. You had a written comment, correct, Mary?
Right.
Okay, yeah, please, go ahead.
This comment is from Laurie Peterson, and she wasn't able to be here, so I told her I'd read it.
Terrific.
Commissioners, I wish to express my full-hearted support for Commissioner Root. She has consistently been a voice of reason, common sense, and deep integrity throughout her term. She truly represents the taxpayers and citizens of Winnetka. She should be lauded for her tireless and ethical service. To find out that she had instead been censured by the Park Board makes me totally lose faith in you as a board. You are not representing the best interests of the people you were elected to serve. Rather, you continue down a misguided path of representing the interests of a private individual. That Commissioner Root has publicly spoken out against these bad decisions is a badge of honor. Wear it proudly, Colleen, and please continue to stand up for the people of Winnetka. Thank you.
All right, thank you for reading the comments of Lori Peterson. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Seeing none, thank you all for attending. We're going to transition to agenda item number 4. Costa, we're going to ask you to talk, provide an update on the Elder and Centennial Park and Beach.
Eric, thank you. Just briefly here, I just want to give a quick update since the board had asked this to be a standing line item on the budget, or excuse me, on the agenda. Currently, staff is working with consultants to continue preparation or review comments for the special use permit for Centennial Centennial Park and Beach. Currently, we are also working in the background on the progression of the plan set from 70% construction documents to 100%. We are reviewing some adjustments in materials and different things of that nature, trying to once again make sure we're mindful of our budget and we're making sure we're staying within what was provided with the last cost estimate. As it relates to Elder Lane Beach, that project is still on hold based on the review from the Village of Winnetka with the continued review of the stormwater. As discussed previously, the Village of Winnetka has started their Southeast Watershed review. They have brought on a consultant, Stern Engineering, to review that watershed and are going to be coming back to the Park District with the allotted size that they would request based on their review of what the discharge for Elder Lane Beach should be. Once we have that information, we can continue on our design perspectives and move forward with a collaborative design for stormwater and our design for the beach itself. At this time, I'd like to answer any questions that the Park Board might have.
Any commissioners have questions for Costa? Yeah, Commissioner Pratt.
Do you want to go first, Laura?
You go ahead.
You're just trying one.
Nope.
Okay, I do have a question. It's less for.
Yes. I want to use the mics. We love these new mics. Thank you again to our wonderful staff for getting them. I do have a question. My question is less for Costa and more for the board. I've reflected on past staff interactions and I'm moving forward in a different direction with this question. I have taken a look at the website as diligently as I've taken a look at our Park Board communications to the community, and it kind of left me with kind of a question in terms of what plan are we exactly moving forward, and I will explain, because I was studying some of the diagrams, and so I went back to review our resolution from October 19th, and then I know that we had the change on March 21st with the access path, and I was kind of left with a question when I looked at the resolution from October 19th and then the drawings on the website, because honestly, I don't remember having a specific discussion about the benches where we approved that. And so I was going back to look, and perhaps people can explain that, but I have our resolution from the 19th here with a post-it on the Centennial schematic design, and there are no benches in that plan, so I can circulate that. I subsequently looked at the donation agreement, which also contains a diagram dated October 19th, 2023, and I observed that there are benches on that one side of the pier, as we have talked about in our meeting. I can say that before the donation agreement was circulated, I went back and forth extensively saying, please provide Exhibit A, please provide Exhibit A, please provide Exhibit A, and the comments I got back were, it is the board-approved design plan from October 19th, no change from the Centennial plans approved by the Park Board. And so I'm kind of having a little bit of a hard time reconciling those two things, and I didn't want to bring it to staff because it's very uncomfortable and upsetting for staff to be getting, different direction and not clear direction from the board. I mean, when I had raised a concern about some drawings that weren't correct on the website previously, I received a very strong rebuke from our executive director for sending the link to the October 19th board-approved resolution plans. So that's why I'm bringing it to this group to have a look at. I will be happy to pass these down the line. I am expecting that perhaps President Cotto, you might have the best viewpoint, since both of these documents bear your signature as president of the board, and because of your service on both the negotiating team and also the design team. But I look at the Centennial landing page and I see the pier with the benches on one side, and I mean, admittedly, I'm not trying to overrule majority decision, but if we could clarify when that decision was made, when we discussed it, I think that might go a long way, because right now I'm having a really hard time reconciling how we have two drawings from October 19th, 2023 from two different meetings, when in my view they should be the same. So thank you.
I want to clear up any confusion. So COSA, listening to Commissioner Rapp's comments, do you have any initial reaction or thoughts on some of the questions she presented?
I have to review the documents specifically. I apologize, I don't have them, from the 19th, and then the exchange agreement, I don't have them, memorized. But I will indicate that placement of benches is always something that is kind of contributed and done at a staff level. I will say that at the last meeting, or maybe 2 meetings ago, I apologize, there was conversation around the placement of the benches, and staff took that information and is looking at the placement of those benches on the pier at Centennial that's being proposed, and looking to set those opposed from one another, so there would be benches on both sides, so there could be views and vistas viewed from either way. Once again, taking the comments that we heard from the meeting and adjusting those plans. Those are more design details that come out in the finalized construction documents than they are when you're looking at a schematic plan of the proposed site that is calling out the large elements. So I would suggest that the basic elements of what those are, along with the elevations that have been included in those plans, has been held served fast from the October 19th meeting, with the only changes for the 88 walkway that was presented to make sure our slope grades were lower or less than the percentage, I think it was 8% or less, that we had presented and approved by the Park Board. So I will say the design details as benches and some of those other smaller items that are not necessarily fixed items, but they're variables that move throughout the site. Those are usually up discretion of the designers and the staff, not necessarily depicted by the Park Board to tell us exactly where to place a bench in the park. So that would just be my comment back to that. So I'm open for if there's adjustments to the plan that the park board would like to see or suggest. But like I mentioned, we are looking to move the benches on the south side and or set them so they're opposing, so there would be views and vistas from both elevations as requested, or suggested, I should say, not requested, by park board individuals.
Thank you, Costa. You like benches, right? I like them. So I think, did Costa, sorry, one second. Did Costa answer your question?
I'm relieved to hear that staff is applying a more balanced view to the placement of the benches, as is the case at Maple and others. But I do think that we need to specifically reconcile the fact that we have two legislatively approved documents that have different plans that were translated into design documents. So,
great, thank you. Commissioner James.
Costa, can you answer some questions that were raised tonight regarding the budget for Elder and Centennial and the number of different cost estimates that have been provided along the way, and give us a current update?
Sure. So throughout the process, the Park District Board has directed staff to make sure that we're being cost mindful of our approach throughout the entire process. When we looked at the initial plans, and we had 3 different phases of work, we brought forward, I want to say it was 6 or 7 different concept plans to the Park Board, small, basically bare minimum to grandiose, and there was a flavor in between of how should we approach that. I believe those were presented when we were at Hubbardwood School, if memory serves. As we continued through there was discussion amongst the board where there was a straw poll taken to move towards direction on, I think it was 6A, I believe. Don't quote me on that. It's been a minute. But there was direction given towards staff to move forward in one fell swoop. So we did that, and we had that broken down to a phased implementation of small, medium, large. Small, what we would do now as our first step. Medium, meaning the intermediate step, if there was an acquisition of the property and what we could do. And then large, finally, with full acquisition of the property, combining both sites, and then putting an outcropping stone offset reef out at between Elder and Centennial, nearing the 261 property line. I don't have the cost memorized, but we always stayed within the boundaries of what those costs were proposed, and we kept the board abreast along the way of what those were completed. I believe at the last meeting when I did present the change orders, I also indicated the cost for the project, and when we talked through the cost of the project, we also did the cost reference from the September 23 our cost estimates and the price that we're at now, and that was driven down by several thousands of dollars. So we're continuing to try to put value engineering towards this, look at operation means and methods. I will say by moving forward with a Centennial a Centennial project first, it has to be built by a marine operation, so that does include a higher cost contingency at this point in time. If we are able to move forward with Elder and catch up Elder to the same time as Centennial plan, and we construct both projects at the same time, that cost would drive back down. But those are kind of the large-scale reviews. Warren, I apologize, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
Come on.
But I just want to kind of walk through that.
What did we discuss and what did we budget? What did we budget in the current budget?
For this year, we budgeted $2.5 million.
And for next year?
And for next year, we were budgeting the remainder of that. We did not, at that time, I believe it was about $14 million or $13 million and change. There was things taken into consideration for that.
So that's the answer I'm looking for, 13 and change.
Right.
Assuming that we're going to do both at the same time between Elder and Centennial based upon the approved plan.
And that included the renovation of the playground at Centennial too, which was recommended.
Okay, so it's not 24 million, it's 13 and change, and that number continues to get refined and driven downwards. Obviously, we are very eager to catch up on the Elder planning and approval process so as to do these projects simultaneously.
Correct.
That depends upon catching up with the village permit process, sizing the outfall pipe, but much of the work to complete the Elder plan is already in place.
Correct. And I would also suggest that those figures included prior to, initially there was a 15% contingency. That was driven down to a 10% contingency when we presented in September.
Can I ask
and
that
we're down to a 5%.
Can I ask that you post or prepare for the next meeting the updated budget and the plans corresponding to those budgets. And if there is a distinction between marine-based and land-based, you can provide that so we can give current and accurate information to the public.
I don't see why that request can't be completed. I'll confirm that with Shannon, but we should be able to complete that.
Thank you.
I will say that the budget that was presented at the last board meeting was in the packet, and it's up on the website now as well. So there could be a review of Centennial as it is, and if you go back to the September 23rd park board meetings, the cost estimate for that time, phases 1, 2, and 3 was included as well. So there's 2 points of reference for individuals to go back and track that information if they'd like.
I just want to add that when we worked through all the A, B, and C scenarios for Elder and Centennial, David Seaman and I placed copies of all of those budgets and all of those costs at the library. I believe they may still be there, but that was in direct response to Angie Dahl's request for that information. And I believe that was about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago. We presented those at the farmer's market, David Seaman and I, and those details were there. Now, the plan has changed slightly, but it hasn't changed. It has changed slightly in response to citizen input, but the initial costs were there, and we continue to update them. And as Costa has said, those costs were in last month, the meeting 2 weeks ago. So they're there. They might not be as easy to find as everyone wants. Might have to do a little digging, but they are definitely there, and we are definitely providing them.
Thank you, Commissioner Cotto. Commissioner Rapp.
I just wanted to make one comment for members of the public. The documents that I shared with Commissioner Cotto with the drawings are available on the Diligent platform. The resolution from October is available in the document library under resolutions for 2023. And then the donation agreement draft was posted on December 14th, 23, and it was in one of the later postings, not the posting 48 hours before the meetings, but one of the later ones, just so that people in the public and viewing know what we're looking at.
Good call out. Directed a number of people to that this week. Thank you. Commissioner Root?
Do I have permission to speak?
Absolutely.
All right. I have 2 questions for you, Costa. Can you hear me? Okay. The first is, what is the status now of the process? As I understand, we do not have an existing special use permit for Centennial Park. Is that correct?
For Centennial Park Dog Beach to be that where it is, my understanding there was a special use permit requested and required that the Village of Winnetka would have had to approve. Upon that, it was my understanding that there was one existing somewhere. I was not around at that time. I could not find files of that, but when I contacted the village, they suggested we're not sure if we're going to require you to do a new special use permit or run off the existing. So since there was an existing, one would think that we would continue that route. And if it's requested for us to submit a fully new special use permit, we would follow that route. So that's the reason that we followed suit in the way we engaged the village for special use.
That's not my question. My question is there an existing special use permit, not for the Dog Beach, but for Centennial Park? Did the village find one?
As far as I'm aware, I don't know if the village did or did not, because I am not in control of them. I know we looked through our records based on request. We did not find one through our records.
So just to clarify, what now is our process moving forward?
We're still waiting for a review from the village in regards to whether they would like us to submit a new special use required permit or not. So that has not been determined, but whatever route is determined by the village, we will follow.
Thank you. And then I learned something. I always learn something new every time you speak. And I learned tonight that we are going to have to do Centennial if we do it without Elder by marine construction. And I'm kind of confused by that. Can you please explain why that would be necessary?
So the way the project was initially described and presented, when we were going to construct both sites, we were going to have access down via our current access road at Elder Lane Beach,
yes,
get down to beach level, have a put together a agreement that, or a lease agreement for us to cross the 261 property and then be able to construct Centennial Beach. Since we do not have the Centennial plan ready to go, and not to just, to tear apart that road and build in the infrastructure, nor do we have the agreement to cross 261 yet in place, our only means and methods to construct that would be from marine base, because we don't have a way to build it throughout the beach, from the parkland. We would destroy a lot more parkland, and we would have to carve a path down the bluff. We don't want to disturb the bluff any more than it needs to be. So the direction currently, as we stated prior to, was going to be marine-based operations for Centennial at this point in time, since we chose to move forward independent of Elder.
I'm very confused. The road at Elder, even though it is currently blocked by fence, it still exists. So why can you not use that road? And as far as I'm concerned, the beach across 261 is former submerged land, a created beach, so it's public beach. So why could you not use the road if it's a cost savings to do land-based, which I always heard at Lloyd that it was a cost savings to do. Let me finish my question.
Please continue, Commissioner Root.
I don't understand.
The amount of wear and tear that we would have on Elder Lane to accomplish that feat, we would destroy the road and the landing area. That was all determined and was going to be rebuilt as part of the development design for Elder. That's the reason those would coincide during construction. That was the driver between it. As far as it relates to the accreted sand on 261, I'm not an authority to suggest one way or another how that could be handled. I just know that we worked with that resident prior to for access to that beach, and we had worked through a license agreement, and we are anticipating to file that same suit.
And just so we're clear, that resident is the gentleman who has entered into the contribution agreement with a 50-year restrictive covenant for a specific design on Centennial. I would presume he would be more than happy to provide access across his 261 Sheridan, so he gets his desired design. It's just a question.
Any further comments, Commissioner?
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner James, did you have comments you'd like to share? Questions for Costa?
You could editorialize. I just want to reiterate Costa's comments to make sure everybody understands. We've always contemplated getting two prices, marine-based versus land-based. The damage of the trucks is a big issue crossing the Elder parking lot. Part of our budget was to remove or to replace the Elder parking lot. More importantly, the road down to Elder is far too narrow for trucks and equipment. So it, as a part of the overall plan, would be expanded temporarily for construction purposes and then reconstructed in a shallower grade and a little bit wider to provide continuing maintenance access. Unless we proceed with those plans, we are locked out of accessing by land, and we would be required to go by marine. Again, in my opinion, it's the beginning of May 2023. If we collaborate, we should very easily be able to secure permits at this time or earlier this time next year and be under construction.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think that's, I would just add, I think marine-based commentary is welcome. We've had a number of dialogue over the years, especially considering the amount of work that's been done in southeast Winnetka between New Trier. Previously was impacted by Lloyd Beach. That's a positive. I think that's a positive thing. So, very good update, Costa. Commissioner James, do you have something else to add?
Are we going to leave the topic of Elder and Centennial?
Commissioner Rapp, please.
One, I think at the next meeting, it would be helpful to have a rundown also on some of the other changes that have been put forward in the permit, like the most recent permit drawing, because I noticed that there was another gate, like a couple other changes have been made that I just think keeping everyone on the same page is helpful. And then if there could be short update on the timeline, we might know more, because it looks like things, have changed a little bit, so that probably would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rapp. Commissioner James.
I would like to provide answers and information to the public, and this being the opportunity, I appreciate you all sticking around. I too am a longtime resident of Winnetka. I moved all the way from Wilmette in 1973, 51 years ago. Yeah, I lived in the city for a decade or more, and then I chose to move back here and raise my family. I have the privilege of having my siblings and my mother and father all living within walking distance. It truly is a blessing. So we're very much a part of the fabric of this community. I volunteered my time for many years in a variety of services. I was asked to serve on the Lakefront Advisory Committee by my friend Ian Larkin. I taught his kids how to water ski. I spent literally thousands of hours in the Great Lakes. I also have a great affinity for Lake Michigan. And I've made it a personal just quest of mine to understand the lake and its habits. Don Smith and I have had many conversations about the lake, as have Susie and I. I remember when the bluffs were collapsing in 1987. I think Susie was on the board back then. If you don't know, Elder and Centennial collapsed into Lake Michigan. Those aren't natural bluffs. Where you see the steel revetments, those plans were prepared by Harz Engineering to rebuild the bluffs. We might not be able to do that under today's scenario. Thus the importance of filling in where we don't have bluff protection. Because if it's gone, it's gone. That's the rule. The rules have changed. We suffered tremendous damage during the high lake level period. I sat in this room in January, February of 2013. The lake was at an all-time low water level. You could walk out the boat ramp around the pier on dry land. We didn't think there was going to be a boat launch. By April, the water had surged back. By 2020, we were dealing with record high water levels. We witnessed 100-year-old trees falling into the lake at Lloyd. We needed to take immediate action. We put forth a plan that wasn't as robust or as ambitious as the Lakefront Master Plan, but we knew we needed to act right away. And we did so, and I'm very proud of the work that we accomplished at Lloyd. I think the evidence is by the users. Back to Elder and Centennial. Elder's in disrepair. There are a lot of things that are wrong with it. There are a lot of things that need to be corrected. The gabion baskets and blankets are well beyond their useful life. That's been identified. The pier and the stormwater that is underneath it were designed in 1946, shortly after World War II, approved in 47, and I presume constructed in 47 and 48. The pier is owned by the Park District. The pipe is owned and operated by the village. A big chunk of, you've seen the disrepair of the pier, and a big chunk of that pipe rusted off and washed ashore. 54-inch diameter corrugated metal pipe. More recently, we've been at the lake and we've seen other chunks of steel that have broken off and rest in the sand. We don't know how much is down there until we get major equipment to scour that. What we do know is that there are pieces of metal that are still out there that can't be reached with conventional equipment. We know that there are chunks of concrete that are out there. I would urge you all, do not swim at Centennial. You cannot go into the beach at Centennial. We know there's construction debris. We presume it's from the actual 1969 tear down of the hospital facility that was on that site. I've seen it myself. Commissioner Rapp and I were down there and we saw these chunks of concrete in the water. Don't swim. Don't try to swim in there. It's not safe. Okay? The beaches are closed for a reason because we can't guarantee their safety. There are hazards known and unknown. The gabion baskets are torn apart. They have wires that's sticking up. The beach changes week to week. Commissioner Root referenced the replenished sand that was put into the system by the resident to the south. That sand got washed out. That's what happens. I watched 6 feet of sand in one storm wash out from Tower Road Beach. It can happen quickly and hazards can be exposed. We share the concern. We want to open the beach as soon as possible. That's why we advanced these plans. I'm an engineer by education. I'm a developer by profession. 37 years in the business. I've been in these meetings countless times. I've been through this process many, many times. I can look at a plan and I can see it in 3D. And I've offered to meet with anybody who wants to meet and walk you through the plan and help understand the efficacy of the designs that we've advanced. With respect to the dog beach, Randy, you're a zealous advocate and you're a very strategic thinker. Randy interviewed me for a second term on the Park Board Caucus. Half the questions were about the dog beach. Eric Lusson too, we talked about it that night. Randy and I share a passion for our Goldens. I lost one of mine today. I love dogs, I love the dog beach. The decision of the Lakefront Advisory Committee was to find an alternate location so we could unify that. Randy, through his efforts and others, persuaded this board to find another location. The choice, Chris Rintz stepped in. He offered Tower. For those of you that don't know, Tower, the majority of Tower Beach is village owned. Only 200 feet is owned by the Park District. Together, there's about 512 feet of public beach from the pier to the end of the public property. Now, the expansive beach there is 2,700 feet. It's possible because the pier accretes sand. We could take half of Tower and turn it into dog beach, or we could take a quarter of the combined Elder and Centennial. This board voted on October 27, 2022, unanimously, including Commissioners Rappaport. We voted unanimously to keep the dog beach at Centennial. Randy, you were persuasive. You argued against relocating the dog beach to Tower Road. I remember. The statement at the time was it's a neutral location. The dog beach has been there since 1995. It wasn't until 2007 that the village of Winnetka promulgated the leash laws. Until then, you could walk around town without your dog on a leash, and many did, many still do. We as the Park District have to enforce the rules. We can't legally condone people taking their dogs off leash. We can't do that. We're elected officials, legal body with fiduciary duties. You choose to do that as a resident, that's your call. We've developed a plan that preserves the dog beach approximately 240 feet. It's properly fenced in on 3 sides, obviously open to the lake, in an elegant solution that minimizes the imposition of the views. As to the railings and the piers, I think if you go down to go down to Lloyd, go down to Tower, we have seasonal railings that are put up on those piers. Nobody has objected to the imposition of the views. It's a safety consideration. With respect to the design of the pier at at Centennial, it's to separate the dog beach from the people beach, and just like Tower catches sand, just like the 200-foot-long groin at Kenilworth Beach catches sand, and just like the 300-foot-long pier at Glencoe catches sand, that 200 plus or minus foot long pier will catch sand and provide for a new swimming beach. Remember, for the past 29 years, Centennial Beach has been fenced, gated, and locked for the exclusive use of plus or minus 305 dog beach pass holders, of which I'm one. I've enjoyed the dog beach. But that exclusive use, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the board, was the most egregious violation of the public trust doctrine. The beach is supposed to be accessible to all. So our plan keeps a portion of the dog beach there, 240 feet, bigger than Wilmette Dog Beach, but it provides public access to the lake in an ADA accessible path. That ADA accessible path is the shortest path possible. For ADA, you can have a continuous path at 5%, no greater. Up to, if you exceed that, you can go up to 8.33%, but not for more than 50 feet without a rest area. Our design is around 8% to allow some construction tolerance. It has the rest areas. It was required to have 2 handrails either side because it's greater than 5%. If we do a switchback, 5 feet pad, it's going to be longer, deeper. It wouldn't fit consistent with that artist representation in the prior plan. We've given great consideration, hours and hours of consideration. We have a coastal engineer. His name is Matt Wright. He's got more than 40 years experience. He was interviewed by an impartial body. That coastal engineer was selected over Baird and a third party, and it wasn't close. Our coastal engineer works with Shabik and Associates. Charlie Shabik is a long-standing resident of this community. He's not a coastal engineer. He's a PhD in geology, and he's the foremost expert on this stretch of Lake Michigan. And what we're dealing with principally is erosion, and that's the province of a coastal engineer, excuse me, of a geologist. The improvements that we are making are the province of the coastal engineer, of which Matt White is eminently qualified. Those two together are giving guidance to us. And the village has engaged Baird for peer review. That's part of the village's newly enacted ordinance, to provide the peer review. So I want to assuage your fears. This has been a very well thought out plan. Yes, we're keeping the dog beach, and it's Randy's dog beach. We should call it Randy's dog beach, because he's been the most zealous advocate. But it's the community's dog beach. It's just in a more appropriate allocation of space, and then permitting public access. And then Elder. There's been comments made about Elder Lane Beach being contaminated. You know what? Talk to the village. The village did an extensive study and work back in 2012. They addressed 67 illegal cross connections where raw sewage was dumping into the water. That's been addressed. It's much better. But you still have 300 acres of Winnetka storm sewer discharging out that pipe. Our plan is to move the pipe north and move the swimming beach south. Separate those two, because right now we got a discharge pipe in the middle of a swimming beach. So I know the plan doesn't look elegant, but there are safe and effective solutions. It's not as elegant as the initial plan that we proposed. We don't have a combined beach. I still hope to be able to combine the beach at some point in the future, but I hope you will please respect the decisions. These are votes that have been taken, and if we can't build upon the actions, we'll be stuck. And this community needs to get unstuck. Because one of the most frequently asked questions I hear in Winnetka is, why can't Winnetka get anything done? And this park district is about getting things done. We've given great consideration, and I wish that you would all respect the hard work and diligence of this and the expertise of the board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner James. Any other comments from commissioners on Costa's Elder and Centennial Park and Beach updates? Seeing none, we'll move to agenda item number 5. That is Lisa with the Executive Director's Report.
All the reports were submitted in the packet, and I am here if you have any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none? We'll move to agenda item number 6, Commissioner comments. We've had a lot of commentary tonight, which is great. Are there any broader comments that anyone would like to share? Commissioner Rapp.
I just wanted to recognize staff for an outstanding beach event at Tower Road on Saturday. It was well attended. Commissioner Cotto and I were both there. It was both beach cleanup, although the beach was fantastically clean. People still could find small things, but it looked really good. And there was a concerted effort to educate the community on beach safety, which I think that for the young people who attended got a lot out of it. Hopefully we can build on that so that there are more of them. But it was really well received, and it was a good team effort, and it was a beautiful day to be out on the beach. So thank you to the staff.
Thank you for sharing, Commissioner Rapp. Others? Commissioner Root.
I just have a few comments. First of all, I want to thank so many people who came and spoke in my favor tonight. It means a great deal to me that you take your personal time to do that, and I thank you sincerely. I also want to reflect on Mickey Archibald's comment that we need to learn how to respect each other so that we can move forward. And in doing so, I think we need to have as a healing catharsis, a few additional comments about our Commissioner Code of Ethics. What comes to mind is Matthew 7:3-5, where it is said, "Why do you see the speck in your brother's eye, but you fail to see the log in your own?" I had prepared comments. I'm not going to read those. What I am going to do is read several sections of our Park District Commissioner Code of Ethics. One of them is, "I will not use the agency for my personal or business advantage or for the advantage of my friends." Commissioner Lusson, on September 20th, 2020, you voted in favor of the property exchange agreement, which was an agreement between this district and the Orchard 2020 Trust. The record does not reflect that at any time you disclosed, either then, during my 3.5 years tenure, or as we move forward, that you had a very close personal friendship with Peter Lee, who is the trustee of the Orchard 2020 Trust. I believe you serve as an executive for Fidelity's Institutional Investment Group. I believe you also hold multiple FINRA licenses. And I would have expected at a minimum that you would have brought to the board's attention this personal relationship. And I guess if you wanted to be extremely cautious, you would have recused yourself from that vote, and you would recuse yourself for further discussions as it affects anything to do with Orchard 2020 and its beneficiary. Commissioner James, looking at that same section of our Commissioner Code of Ethics, your development company, Riva Development Company, in which you're an owner, regularly works with the Lakota Group. Since my tenure on the board, you have failed to disclose this conflict of interest and have regularly voted for an evergreen consulting arrangement between this district and the Lakota Group. You've been belligerent and abusive when board members like me recommended that we at least consider securing public bids for landscape architecture. It has seemed to me that you have influenced park decisions to benefit your personal business connections without considering alternative options that could be better for this community. At a minimum, you had a duty to publicly disclose your conflict of interest. Since November of 2020, you have also been actively involved directing staff and park consultants, along with your business partner, the Lakota Group, regularly attending technical meetings where you've directed park and park consultants as to the design for Centennial and Elder Beaches. Yet our Commissioner Code of Ethics says that your duty is to see that this district is well managed, not to actively involve yourself in the management of the district. Commissioner Cotto, on April 25th, you orchestrated a hatchet job, a hit job on me, without notice, without any opportunity for me to know that this was happening, and you failed to also advise another board member. The addendum A that you attached to the censure has many, many errors, misrepresentations, and false statements. I believe you have multiple violations of our Commissioner Code of Ethics. I could list them all, but I won't, because that won't help us move forward. And Commissioner Tyson and Commissioner Hemmings, it is quite apparent to me that you were complicit in the hatchet job that occurred on April 25th. you yourselves had a duty to reach out, and if you didn't want to tell me, because, I'm the whipping post of the board, because I dare to have a dissenting opinion and to speak that dissenting opinion, you did have an ethical duty to let Commissioner Rapp know what was happening. I hope that we can move forward, but I think we need to be very transparent with our public. I would ask that we also consider, well, I won't even go there. Again, part of the ability to move forward is to see all of our flaws. And I cannot accept what you've done with Centennial Beach. Why I can't is because I think it's unsafe. You have so many, just segmentation of the beach, a wide open beach that you now have a central pier in that serves no function to preserve and protect the bluff is something I don't understand. I do understand that it will afford privacy and security to someone who has now a 50-year restrictive covenant. That I do understand. And again, I do hope we can move forward and work more amicably than what we have done in the last, well, certainly since April 25th. I'm very disappointed that you would have behaved the way you did, but you did. And if Mr. Seaman's not here, I will be more cautious in my comments, but I still will ask questions and ask that you carefully consider what you're doing, because you're taking a wide open, beautiful beach and you're turning into something that, well, you heard Phil Equist, who is a landscape architect of great prominence, suggesting that there might be a better alternative. Thank you for your patience and time in listening to me. And again, people who came, I want to thank you so much. It meant a lot.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Commissioner Roots. Commissioner Cotto?
Yes. Let the record show that Commissioner Root took 4 extra minutes in addition to the 3 minutes that each of us has promised. Order. Order. I would like some order. She was given 10 minutes at the last meeting as well. I will say these.
How long did he take?
I will say make these points. Number 1, transparency works both ways. And the precipitating event for me was finding out that a minority position inaccurately had been sent to trustees. That was the precipitating event for me. We were not noticed. We were not noticed when Commissioner Root engaged in other activities. We were not noticed. We were not included. Consequently, if there is a charge against transparency, that works on both sides. I would like to say I went down to the legislative breakfast with Elisa Kapuscinski, and I found it to be very informative. And I will produce a report and share this information with you. I believe Elisa got the digital copy, so we're going to try and share that in diligent community. Thank you.
Commissioner James.
I'll just speak on transparency.
3 minutes, Warren.
We as a board agreed to hold a meeting in this room in March of 2022, in which we presented all the plans for Elder and Centennial, the original plans. We held 2 open houses on May 7th and May 11th to coincide with the 30-day public comment period. That 30-day public comment period resulted in a great deal of consternation, as anticipated, over the design, especially the louvers. There was, in this room, a hue and cry and public pressure that brought Mr. Ishbia to reconsider his demands. And prior to that, he had already capitulated on all of the extra contractual demands. And on June 16th, he capitulated on the louvers because, candidly, I think he understood that this community feels very strongly. However, this board voted, we agreed to disclose all closed session minutes, all of our handwritten notes, all our text messages, our emails, any designs, anything that we had worked on, we disclosed. And we put that all out for the public domain, and it was quite a bit of fodder. But we did it because we had nothing to hide, except for one. Commissioner Root refused to turn over her handwritten notes and text messages. Commissioner Rapp went to the trouble of going to her service provider and recovering her deleted text messages. So transparency does work both ways. Text messages were revealed from Mr. Ishbia to Executive Director John Peterson, something to the effect of good news, the permit's going to be issued. That text message was read to the village trustees on July 12th, completely out of context, as if to assert that read by Commissioner Root, unbeknownst to any of us. I only found out months later that she'd made that appearance. That text message was meaningless. A text message regarding the Army Corps who had determined that the louvers were above the ordinary high water mark. It was outside of their jurisdiction. They had no problem. The IDNR never said they were going to issue a permit. At no time. So let's clarify, at no time was there ever an indication that the final permit would be issued. And it was always subject to the 30-day public comment, of which I had forewarned Mr. Ishbia in April of 2021, a year prior. Transparency works both ways.
Thank you, Commissioner James.
Rebuttal. We don't have Park Council here tonight. However, there is a better government case versus the City of Chicago, which gives guidance on what notes, text messages, emails, correspondence, communications must be turned over in a FOIA. I read that case carefully, and I worked with former Administrative Assistant Libby Baker. I turned over all responsive texts, emails, notes, anything I had that was responsive. So you are incorrect, Commissioner James. What I did not turn over were my personal communications, and the Better Government case versus the City of Chicago says that I did not have to do that. And that, I believe, is the guidance that you are now operating under. I think perhaps Mr. Hemmings can also confirm that when we have FOIAs that come in. So your comments were not correct. Thank you.
Any additional comments for this evening?
It wasn't a FOIA request. It was a voluntary action of the board.
Okay. Mr. Tyson, Commissioner Tyson, excuse me, anything else that you'd like to add?
All set. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Hemmings?
Nothing from me other than to thank everybody who came in to speak tonight. Sorry, we have microphones for a reason. Nothing from me but to thank everybody who came in to speak tonight. I appreciate you all's perspective and taking your time out to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kudo? Good?
No, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Rapp? Commissioner Root? Good? Great. Item number 12, or 7, excuse me, adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. 7:46.